Ladies and gentlemen of Hashtag Nation, welcome to a very special Hashtag Sports presentation on a Wednesday of all days. Of all days, guys. It's crazy. I don't know what's going on. We are going to be talking about the Buffalo Bills versus the New England Patriots playoff primer. I think that's this weekend. I think a few games are on this weekend.
It might be right. That
Who
might
knows?
be right.
For the third time around, the first time since 66, I believe they played in the playoffs. So this has been a while. Joining me tonight, men who don't need any introduction, who have all faces for radio. We got my esteemed colleague Paul is here. We have Mike, who does the Friday Night Tailgate. Hopefully you've been watching that and getting some really good insight there, as well as our play-by-play man, Joe, with his razor-sharp picks on every Wednesday, joining us to talk Buffalo Bills versus the New England Patriots. Hey, when it's playoff time, either you grow a playoff beard or you guys start talking, you bring the big guns in, so you can do that. We'd like to thank our sponsor for tonight's show, Mr. Rogers Homes and LinkedIn. As always, you guys could find Mr. Rogers' brochure in the description of this video, as well as all of our links to iTunes, Spotify, Instagram, Paul's Boutique, Mike's Racetrack, and Joe's I can't think of anything. Joe's Bar. How about that? That's all I got. So thank you guys for tuning in tonight. We're going to be talking a lot about the Buffalo Bills Patriots, and we might have some opinions that might anger some of y'all. Well, we apologize, but the one thing that we do fairly well here is be objective. All right, let me kick it to my esteemed colleague, Paul. And what's up, Paul?
Listen, man, I know that on the post-game show, I was asking for the Patriots. I was asking for them. And every day, I just wanted to get to Saturday. I wanted to just get colder and colder. I want it to be a miserable game. Do you know why? Because it will just warm the hearts of everyone in Orchard Park when the Bills beat the Patriots 9-3. Because and I'm not even saying there's going to be a field goal. That's going to be a touchdown and a safety. That's how you get to 9. That's how you get into 9. No field goal.
How you getting to 3 though?
Well, I mean, the Patriots can kick them, but that's because I hate them. That's fine.
Nick Folk
do
is
what
a
they
king.
want. I don't care what they do. I don't care
Nick Folk is a god.
Because Nick Folk is God. That's right. Kick in any condition.
All right, Mike, the co-host of the Friday Night Tailgate. How are you doing tonight, brother?
I'm wonderful. Getting ready for the game. Can't wait. Saturday night can't get here quick enough because I think it's going to be a beatdown. We've won 3 of the last 4, and the only one that we lost was in some crazy monsoon weather, and Josh still had a chance to win it and just didn't hit Beasley wide open.
Ooh. I was behind enemy. I apologize. I was behind enemy lines tonight, guys. I went on with Ray. We were talking about previewing the game a little bit. He said that Bill Belichick throughout that entire game did not call an all-out blitz all game on Josh Allen, except for that final play. That was the first time he did it. We all know Belichick is sneaky, but Razor Joe Sharp coming in, our play-by-play man and our rules aficionado. Joe, how you doing tonight, brother?
Doing great. I actually, as we were going live, I was checking on my picks from last week and checking my how I did finally in the standings. So I'm happy with that. We made out well in the bank account too, so you can't complain about that either. So if you weren't following my picks all season, shame on you. I am one of the very few, unlike Paul, who was hoping we play the Chargers instead of the Patriots, and we can talk about that later as well. But it is what it is. I think we can win this game either way, so let's get on with it.
I think I can lead the pack here by saying it's going to be like 4 degrees outside. Bet the under. Whatever it is. Bet the under.
The under was 12, Paul. I don't know if we're going to bet the under. Paul, can you throw that up on the screen for me? Because we have Hashtag Nation all over the world.
Oh, yeah. Look at that.
Good morning from Dubai. Bills Mafia here. Tom 5150. Thank you for joining us. Dude, what time is it there? Let us know. Let us know in the chat.
I don't know. Isn't that measured metrically? Metric time over there.
Is it metric?
Metric system.
I don't know. All I know is Paul's like, can you make sure to turn on the super chat tonight? And I was like, why, Paul? You have an OnlyFans. I don't know why he wants me to do that. It's so crazy.
That's why I see Paul all the time.
Yeah. That's, and the sad thing is, when I asked for a ring light for Christmas, it was like an OnlyFans starter kit that my wife bought me. It came with like the little Bluetooth remote, so I could like start my video from like apparently questionable positions. It's very, very, very odd. It's very odd.
He wants to zoom it in, ladies and gentlemen. All right. Enough of that. Let's just, transferring over from that, I guess. How are the Buffalo Bills? Let's start with Joe. How are the Buffalo Bills going to stick it in the collective rear ends of the New England Patriots this Saturday, Joe? All right, wait, let me rephrase. What are some, offensively, what are some keys you see that the Buffalo Bills need to do to defeat the Patriots this Saturday?
Offensively?
Yeah, offensively.
Guys. Well, I think us getting the running game going the past 2 weeks has been huge. Against Atlanta and against the Jets, you saw Singletary rush very well. I actually thought during the Jets game, they tried to feed him the ball a little bit too much in the first half. I was like, okay, you have established the run to some degree. Let's get Josh Allen going. Early on, I want to see. We all know that Josh Allen has a tendency to throw the ball high, especially when he gets excited early. I want to see some easy throws for Josh Allen, some quick screens to Beasley. Sanders had a full day of practice. He should be good to go. Some quick passes, maybe even some of those jet sweep little flips behind line of scrimmage that count as pass plays, something to get him going. And then again, the run game going. I think time possession is going to be huge in this game. And we saw what happened with the Jets. We controlled time possession, and I want to see that again come Saturday night. I think the Buffalo Bills. Again, I don't want to play Bill Belichick 3 times in a season. I think that's crazy, but we are. That's what we have to do now. But we have to be ready for what he's going to throw us defensively. Look, it doesn't matter who the head coach is. If you play a team 3 times in a season, they know your tendencies, right? And so Bill Belichick isn't going to throw anything at this team defensively that we haven't seen before. We're not going to throw anything at them offensively that we really haven't seen before, or they haven't really seen before. So it's just a matter of execution at this point.
Yeah, I think the numbers are Allen has won 4 out of his last 5 against Bill Belichick, and it is like I agree with you. It is, and it's one of those things that the Buffalo Bills, over the last 3 games more specifically, have held the ball, starting with the New England Patriots, 35 minutes, 37 minutes, and 36 minutes. Mike, how do you think that do you think that the Buffalo Bills made a conscious effort to hold on to the ball a little bit more to give that defense? I mean, we've seen the defense now in the last 3 games play absolutely lights out now that they're not on the field forever. Do you think that was something that the Buffalo Bills needed to do going into the playoffs to give this defense some rest?
I don't think they needed to do that. What they needed to do was take the profits. Josh has been looking for the big plays. He got away from taking profits. When we played against the Patriots last time, the first 4 passes were all within 5 yards, and it turned into first downs every time. That's what we need to do, because they're not going to continue blitzing him, because Judon came out and said it today. The goal is to not let Josh run, not let him scramble around. So what does that tell you? They're going to play contained defense. They're not going to be trying to put pressure on him. They're going to hope the guys up the middle can, but the ends are going to contain. So that means they're going to drop into, zone coverages, and it's going to leave those profits open underneath, the Singletaries, the Knoxes, the quick passes. And then as they have to start putting pressure, once we get a lead, that's when you're going to get the man-to-man. Diggs can, win his match. McKenzie had a field day last time. So I'd love to see what Beasley's going to do. And then Sanders is actually healthy now. So I don't think we have to give them the rest. I think it probably helped because they didn't feel like it was all on them. We got out to a lead, and they could just then play their defense the way they wanted to.
So, Mar, let me ask you before you jump there, right? Looking at the Patriots injury report, 2 guys were listed as do not participate today. They did have they didn't practice yesterday. So they have the estimated injury report. Jamie Collins was not listed on that. He was today. Isaiah Wynn was not listed. He was listed as a limited availability on the pseudo injury report. But both those guys, Jamie Collins and Isaiah Wynn, did not participate today. obviously missing a tackle, missing a linebacker. How much does Jamie Collins change the complexion of that pass rush for the Patriots if they really are going to say, like Mike just said, I'm just going to sit here and wait for you, Josh. I'm just going to wait.
Another one before you go, Mario. Another one is Mills. Their starting corner Mills went out on the COVID list yesterday. So he can't clear.
I was like, Jordan Mills. This is why is this relevant?
No, the starting quarterback Mills went out on tested out to COVID yesterday, so he won't even be able to test back in until game day.
Right.
Which he probably will. I mean, there's a couple new. And Chief is Gold put in the chat. Any news on Lawson? We'll get to that. You know this about Bill Belichick. He always comes in, and it's always a little bit sleight of hand. He'll have 25 guys on the injury report, so you don't know what's going to happen. He'll always do that. That's been a staple of his. As far as the whole Judon, I think that what they're going to try to do is something similar they tried to do, in the first matchup was they're going to try to rush 4. They're going to try to drop 7, and they're going to not so much contain Josh because they do want to get to him, but they're going to put Judon on Spencer Brown more over than anything else, and he is more athletic enough to make Josh go left. You guys know as well as I do, when Josh rolls left, he's not as effective as he rolls when he rolls right. Mm-hmm. So I don't think it's so much they don't want to put pressure on him. They just want to contain him in the pocket because he will shred that secondary if you give him time. But I think Judon and everything else, and even to Paul's point, will help if they decide to bring 5. That will be absolutely devastating for the Buffalo Bills if they try to bring 5, because we've seen this line perform very, very well against poor defenses. How are they going to perform against the second best defense in the NFL? That is going to be my question, and I have a feeling that's going to be answered very, very early.
Daniel Garies definitely feels like he says, direct quote, Belichick. I'll allow it. We'll have a CB back on the field for the game. Count on it. And of course, McChicken Vlogs has joined us. So in enemy territory, McChicken, welcome.
Yes, he did make it in here. He was roasting me with Ray on the thing, and Ray had some very interesting thoughts. First of all, as a Patriot fan, he thinks that the Buffalo Bills are going to win and cover because I think it's going to be a touchdown game. For those of you betting, yeah, we'll get the final word from Joe, obviously, with that. But coming into the game, he's like, you know what I would do is one thing that you guys should take advantage of is running Josh Allen about 8 times a game. Mm-hmm. And I said, whoa, that's and I'll defer to Paul on this one. Paul, why don't we let's try to talk to Bills Mafia and Hashtag Nation. Why don't the Buffalo Bills want to rush Allen all the time?
I mean, just have we seen what rushing quarterbacks look like in year 4 of a contract, right? Like, have we seen what that looks like? I mean, listen, up until this season, Josh never lost a game where he had 10 or more rushing attempts, right? This was the first. He was 10-0. He did lose a game this season. I don't remember exactly off the top of my head which game it was. But he did eventually lose a game where he ran for more than 10 times. It was the Tampa game. Yeah, he lost in overtime to Brady. Yeah. That was the first time in his career that he lost a game where he rushed 10 or more times. That is a recipe for success. Ray's absolutely right. And I'll look at Joe for this. When you look at Josh Allen as far as a rusher, do you feel like for Josh behaviorally, once he starts going on the ground, that sometimes that's all it seems to be, right? Like does it seem to you like when Josh is effective on the ground, he's really almost an ineffective passer that day?
Well, I think Josh is I think Brian Dable, and we'll talk about him a little bit too, gets a lot of blame for Josh's decision making. There are a lot of RPOs that ran out there where Josh just keeps it. Why? Because he feels like he needs to keep it. And he doesn't. I feel like sometimes he hands the ball off, he gets more. The problem I think that we have when Josh Allen starts to run the ball is he gets in his own head. If he runs it for a 15-yard first down, then the next play is RPO. It doesn't matter what defense they throw him, he's keeping the ball, right? It doesn't even matter. And that's the problem that I have when Josh Allen starts running the ball. Now, what I like about Josh Allen running the ball is when you see him start running the ball, you see that mentality kind of kick up a little bit of we're not losing this game, of I'm going to do anything to make this team win, jumping over players. Now, you don't like that because he's your star quarterback. You don't want him getting hurt. But at the same time, players respond to that, and that's what's important when you're talking about running. When your question about him being an effective passer while running the ball, I think that when you run, when you make a big play, again, you get amped up a little bit, and then we like I said before, you see Josh Allen get excited, and once he gets excited, you got to calm him down a little bit before you can start throwing accurately again.
What do you got, Mike?
See, I'm a little bit different on that. When it's the designed runs, I agree with Paul. I don't think he's super accurate. He tries to figure out, he almost turns on like the running back part of his brain. But when he scrambles, I think it's just him. It's just a play, and he's fine. So we just need to limit the design runs. If you want to get in the red zone and run those power quarterback sweeps, fine. Stop with this stupid quarterback draws, though. Those kill me. He gets like 3 yards and takes a big hit. So ultimately, when he scrambles, he's fine throwing the ball. When he tries to actually run and be like an actual running back, then no, it tends to throw his game off.
Yeah, enough. Just real quick stat. Josh, when he runs the ball 10 times or more this season, it's happened 4 times this season. He's got an 86 quarterback rating. Just throwing that out there.
Is that another PFF? Or is that no?
It's a Pro Football Reference. Mind you, numbers are a little skewed. He did have a 17 quarterback rating in the Atlanta game. So I just want to point out that the number is a little skewed.
He was a running back that day. Like it was crazy. It was. See, the thing for me is, I guess I'm thinking a little bit more long term with the Buffalo Bills, and I think that has been a thought process of the Bills throughout Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott's tenure in Buffalo, is that they want to think long term. While we're gonna plan for the future and we're gonna try to win now, but we also have to keep in mind, and Paul's mentioned this many times on the show, I don't think any other team has as many incumbent players come back and in the same roles and play the same positions and be asked to do the same thing as the Buffalo Bills. So what that does is it develops continuity. Yet this offense this year has been very, very Jekyll and Hyde. So it's to me, when you try to translate it over to the New England game, and I'll go back around the thing. I'll start with Paul, go to Mike, and then go to Joe. You're Bill Belichick, and I apologize to the three of you for saying that ahead of time. What is the one thing you would do? And you can't say what the previous guy said. So, Joe, I'm sorry, you're getting clean up on this one. What would you do to plan against Josh Allen in this playoff game? What's the one thing you want to take away from Josh Allen in this game to try to limit him this Saturday? Paul, I'm going to start with you first.
I wasn't listening to your question.
Okay, you're all in the chat. I'll start with Mike.
For the record, you gave an order, and I was in the middle of it. So I want to point out that I was like, oh, hold on, I got a minute. All
right, I'll start with Mike.
Okay, me personally, I think it's letting Josh roll right. Much like Paul said. Much like Paul said earlier, you put Judon on that side against Brown, and if you're going to blitz, you send it from that side of the line. So push him left.
Okay. I think Joe's frozen, honestly.
He could be. Yeah, and there he goes.
He just got yeeted.
That's it. Okay, so if I'm looking at things that I need to do if I'm the Patriots, first off, like the first last game I thought was a pretty interesting exercise in watching the game script, like those first 15 plays or first 10 plays versus the rest of the game, right? Buffalo came out in their first possession and a half, and they were all these real quick short throws, single read, go, right? Like, and it was effective. They were able to move the ball down the field in their first, their first drive and a half was basically those plays. And then those plays were gone. And then it was just, let me just try and make it up as let me try and stay alive in the pocket as long as I can and find somebody that shakes open. And that's really what this offense is Josh needs, he depends on that time in the pocket for guys to shake open. So the truth of the matter is the first 10, 15 plays of the game are smoke and mirrors, right? You're not going to see those plays again. Buffalo's not going to go back to the tank, even if those plays are successful. Buffalo's not going back to the tank for those. So I think if you're the Patriots, if you can survive the first 10 plays, not make adjustments off those, just let those plays happen, whatever they are, right? They're probably going to be quick. Let those plays go. And then just know that at some point, the offense is going to depend on Josh trying to buy as much time as possible, right? And that's where you have to put your focus. Just play the long game if you're the Patriots and say, we're going to put as many guys in coverage as we can, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to trust the fact that Buffalo doesn't have the cojones to run it 45 times today to beat us.
Okay. All right. Joe, Mike is going to force Josh Allen to try to roll left. Paul is going to try to make the Buffalo Bills one-dimensional in the run game and put as many people in coverage to try to force Buffalo to try to force Brian Daboll, if he can't help it, to run the damn ball. All right, you're a defensive core. You're Bill Belichick.
Bill Belichick.
How are you stopping Josh Allen on Saturday?
And I can't use those two answers. So
can't use those two.
Yeah, I can't use those two answers. So that really handcuffs me a little bit. I like Paul's answer, but and this might be basically like Paul's answer. Playing a lot of, I'm doing what I did in that first game. I'm not sending any blitzes, especially not any all-out blitzes. I'm letting Josh Allen. I'm giving Josh Allen time in the pocket to not let him. And again, I'm stealing both answers without actually stealing both answers. To not let him roll. You have in New England, you have some pretty good edge setters who could set that edge pretty well, who maintain him in that pocket, and then make him beat you in the pocket. So you don't send the blitz, you play cover 2-man, and then you just see what teams early in the season were doing successfully against Kansas City, what teams were doing successfully against Buffalo, making them have long drives. My biggest fear in this game, one of my biggest fears, is that if Josh Allen, I don't think Josh Allen's fumble problem has gone away. I really don't. I mean, we haven't seen it much this year, but at the same time, my internet went again.
Yeah, I think Josh has had how many fumbles this
season?
Seven.
One, two,
I don't know.
Fumbled 7 times.
7.
Lost 3.
Lost 2, I think.
I think he lost 3.
He's lost 2.
2? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
No, 3. You're right, Mike. Excuse me. You've lost 3. Excuse me.
Okay. I'll take a totally completely different angle. And if I'm Bill Belichick, because here I'm gonna pull a little sidewinder on you guys. Because if I'm Bill Belichick, I'm not only defensive coordinator, I'm the head coach. I'm telling Josh McDaniels that he has to have at least 10 plays on every drive. No 3 and outs. Now, the one way that we've seen that Josh Allen and this offense gets stunted is when they're down. They can play with a lead. A lot of teams can. They can play with a lead. The thing that happens when the Buffalo Bills go down 7, go down 10, that's when things start to get a little itchy on that offense. And then you start to bring a little bit of pressure on top of that. If I was just outright coaching the defense and I want the defense to go, I would pressure Allen more. I would bring odd man blitzes. I would bring the safety off the corner. I would try to isolate. This is going to sound insane. I would isolate J.C. Jackson on Stephon Diggs to say, hey, listen, if you think you're the corner that's going to be playing in this division, that's who you have to cover, because he's going to be in this division for as long as you're here. Okay? The Patriots got to do their evaluations as well. So I would live and die by that. I was like, listen, I have to get to Allen to make him make a decision faster than he wants to. That's number 1. 2 is
last year.
I know. It's and it hurt him. It really did hurt him. I'm not even gonna. No, I don't think Jackson was there though. Was Jackson there last year?
Jackson was on Diggs. That's who Diggs roasted that whole game.
Last year, that's who he roasted last year.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, when you go up on the Buffalo Bills as an opponent, it severely, like Paul said with the script, you're never going to see the script plays again. It severely changes how Daboll calls the game, like it should. You talk about making a team one-dimensional. Well, the Bills want to throw all the time anyway. That doesn't really hurt them. It's the type of play call of trying to get all the points back at once that digs them in a bigger hole. And that terrifies me going into this game. If we see New England go up 10-0 at the end, towards the end of the first quarter, I'm going to be very worried because among everything that Bill Belichick does, his halftime adjustments are probably the best in the history of the NFL. So
he's got a lot of rings for a reason, man. He's got a lot of rings for a reason.
Yeah, and you say that us not being able to run the ball, or we want to throw the ball a lot, but we know how good Josh Allen is off play action. And so if you take away that run game, then that takes that away, really. And so I think it does hurt us if New England gets out to that big lead.
So Tyler Nataro asked a good question. He said, can Beasley punish them like Isaiah did? I think those two players bring very, very different things to the offense, and very, very different responsibilities. But a lot of times people will look at, say, slot receiver as slot receiver as slot receiver, but the skill set and their utilization is totally different. So Mario, when you see a question like that, right? What is the way that you would respond there? Is Beasley going to be able to punish them the same way Isaiah did?
Well, first I want to get to Mike's point because I think he had a point coming off of Joe. I want to hear what he had just to kind of wrap up that point.
Yeah. So my take was going to be, I don't even think it's the play calling as much as it's the decision making from Allen. When he gets down, he starts to chase the dragon. He looks for that big play. He stops taking the profits that are in front of him and starts to put pressure on himself. And the guys kind of feel that, and you could see the momentum in how they play, the body language. They're not reading the defenses the same way, because a lot of what Beasley, and this goes into this next question, how Beasley plays is he plays off of how he reads it. If Josh is constantly looking for the bigger play, Josh could be reading in one way, Beasley can be reading another, and it turns into an interception. Like, go back to the game a couple games ago where Beasley ran the seam route and stopped, and Josh threw the seam route up the middle. Beasley stopped in the hole. Josh didn't see it. Interception.
Yeah. I feel that for the amount of years that Wes Welker and Julian Edelman, you got to remember, it's the same system, guys. Absolutely how many times on second and 7, 3rd and 4, the Buffalo Bills the defense could get off the field, and all of a sudden he throws 5 yards to Welker, 6 yards to Julian Edelman, and it was the most painful thing to watch because you're like, oh, they almost got him off the field, but no, they almost did it again, but no. It was so unbelievably frustrating as a fan to watch. Now, let me tell you something. The defense is even more frustrated than that. So if you want death by 1,000 paper cuts and you want to keep the ball and keep that time of possession momentum going, then, yeah, I think Beasley would be the way to go to kind of keep moving keep moving the ball down the field, keep the ball in your hands, and score to try to put pressure. Because the one thing that we haven't seen out of the New England Patriots, unless they play Jacksonville, is an explosive explosion in scoring. They don't score a lot of points if they get down. You look at it. What Mac Jones is 2-5 when throwing for over 250 yards. He's 4-1 when throwing for under 200. How is that possible in today's NFL? It's because he's able to rely on the run game, which I'm going to go to Paul on this one because I have no idea. Paul, how the heck is Josh Allen number 1 in the NFL in play action passing when the Bills don't really have an explosive run game aside from the last 2 games?
So first off, you summon the ghosts of Wes Welker and Julian Edelman. I just want to point out that had they played with the artillery that at quarterback that number 17 has, their career would have been 4 games each, right? I feel for Beasley some days. And in cold weather games, you want Josh to throw you a 65-mile-an-hour fastball on a 7-yard crosser when it's 4 degrees outside? No thanks. No thanks. There's not gloves in the world that are going to save you from whatever that's going to do to your body.
Come on, there's some Carhartts that could finish that off for you.
I mean, it's more. I'm gonna harken back to something that you've told me many times. Play action isn't necessarily a deception. It's timing, right? It doesn't necessarily have to be deception. You said this, and you're absolutely right. When you look at Josh throwing off play action, just as a career, Josh has typically done very well throwing off play action, and it's utilized a lot. But it's not necessarily because the Bills are effective in the run. It's not that people fear the run game. It's because it's the timing thing. It allows his receivers to read the defense and get into their routes. It gives him a chance to figure out what exactly to look at, because I think we all know Josh takes the snap, Josh looks for a receiver. If he turns his back to the running back for a minute, that allows those receivers to set those routes, because otherwise we know Josh is going to start staring at who he wants to throw it to. And, I know he loves Dawson Knox and everything, but those longing looks as Dawson Knox is running 26 yards down the field, the look in his eyes. Dawson Knox really pissed me off last game, by the way. I just want to point that out. Joe, I don't think you've been a Dawson Knox apologist, right? But what's the over-under on Dawson Knox drops on Saturday in this cold weather? What's the over-under on drops?
If you were to watch my live streams, people would tell you I'm a Dawson Knox apologist. I don't think I am, but
well, that's why I was trying to give you the benefit of the doubt to defend that you weren't, because I've seen the comment section.
Yeah.
I know.
I don't think I am. I mean, obviously, I think we can all agree that this year is better than his previous 2 years. You know what I mean? So like there is improvement there, and we could go back. If we want to get into it, we could go back to his days at Ole Miss and start really talking about it. But at the same time, he still has some issues with the drops. I talked earlier about Josh Allen getting going early. I would love to see Dawson Knox get going early, right? Because the games where he doesn't have the drops plays really well, and not just catching the ball. He just seems to be more active in the offense altogether. But if I see 2 drops on Saturday, I wouldn't be shocked at all. Especially in 7-degree weather. Are you kidding me? He's not gonna catch that ball. Because like you said, it's hard to catch a 5-yard route when the guy's throwing the ball 100 miles an hour at you. Like, really wish
if it hits your hands, you catch it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Look at Torrey Holt's hands. That's what you should do all the time. That's what some Bills wide receivers' hands are going to look like.
And he caught it, and he's in the Hall of Fame for it. And he has a Super Bowl ring.
We don't need
that's catching him for Kurt Warner, though. I mean, that's not catching it.
Yeah.
I mean, if you catch it from Allen on a cold weather day like that, you're going to look like Anthony Munoz. I'll tell you
I'm
what,
not saying Dawson Knox isn't going to drop a couple. He is, but it seems like he'll drop, and it almost seems like he drops the easy ones and then he catches something ridiculous. And like, where the hell did that come from?
I want to point out that no receiver that ever played with Jeff George is a hand model either, right? Like, these are the sacrifices that you make for the paycheck.
Jeff George, this is coming from the man that doesn't think anything at over 20 years old is relevant anymore.
Yeah, I own several Jeff George rookie cards, and he's been a disappointment for decades. Okay?
I'm just trying to think, because all of you have brought up points tonight in a very, very interesting way. Either Mike saying that if Josh, runs the ball on a previous down, then has an RPO, he's keeping it. Joe talked about, Allen's, trust of, the routes or, trust of Knox, because with the drops and everything, just talking about that. Paul, you and I have talked many times when he has play action, he lets those routes develop and he can finally see what's going on. The misfire to Beasley when he thought Beasley was going to keep running the seam, the drops by Dawson Knox, having a new wide receiver, albeit a veteran in Sanders come in, Gabe Davis finally coming back, Isaiah McKenzie finally doing. Do you think that the hindrance of Allen to have a more consistent season? I'm not going to say that. I think we can all agree it was a little Jekyll and Hyde with this offense throughout the year. Mm-hmm. To have a more consistent year, do you think he needs to trust the people around him more? Because when it gets crunch time, a lot of times, I don't think Allen trusts anybody but himself. And what told me that was the Tampa Bay game. He's on one leg diving for the end zone because he's like, I want to end this now because I don't trust anybody else to do it. Meanwhile, quarterbacks would just run out of bounds. They got a bad ankle. He's diving from the 5-yard line to try to score. Mm-hmm. Do you think, I'll start with Paul, but I'm curious about your guys' take on that. Do you think that Allen doesn't fully trust who's around him, or is the guy pulling the trigger up in the box?
I look at it a little this way, right? This offense really predicates itself on the receivers making a lot of reads and for Allen to be on the same page as them, right? So because of that, things take a long time to develop. And sometimes you just get a little itchy, right? I will say that I don't think Josh has a ton of faith in his offensive line when it comes to the run game, because when you see the RPOs, like he straight pulled the ball away from who was on that jet? Was that McKenzie last week?
Yeah.
Yeah, he stole his lunch money on that one. Like McKenzie had that ball, and Josh just straight took it out of his pocket, right? And
for a 2-yard gain when McKenzie runs for probably 15.
McKenzie was gone. Yeah, McKenzie was gone. Had he been able to, had his little hands held onto that football. But the fact,
the pitter patter of McKenzie's feet.
That's right. Yeah, he runs like Marvin the Martian because his legs are so short. They move so fast. Oh my
god! Another reference more than 20 years old. I love it.
In any case, I think it is a little bit of a mix of both, right? I think Josh trusts himself to buy enough time to be effective while his receivers can figure out where the gaps in coverage are. But when it comes to the run game, I don't think Josh has any faith that it's going to go the way that it's supposed to go. Whether that's checking out of run plays a little bit too often, whether that's checking into runs and bad looks, that's definitely something that going into 2022, like the next season, that's something that I really want to see Josh take a leap forward in, is get a more consistent control of how to have an effective run game. I don't necessarily think it's, he doesn't trust the players, but I think he understands that given the odds, he's the best bet, right? Is that, Mike, do you think I'm phrasing that well?
Yeah. And I think we're missing a piece here. And I think it really has to do with how the game is flowing. Because when Josh gets on a roll early and gets in a rhythm, and he gets the ball out to his receivers and they're reading it the same way, and he's got that little swag going, he's great all game long. But what I've noticed really over the last few weeks is, as drops are happening or they're not reading the same way, Josh gets frustrated and stops going that way. If we go back to the second Patriots game, the difference in the game really was Isaiah McKenzie. Well, Isaiah McKenzie didn't run option routes. He ran a route that was designed every time, and he ran away from him. So Josh kept going there because he trusted it, because he knew where he was supposed to be inside the route. And I think that's part of it. I think we have too many option routes. We give that too much. And, it's like, go back to the design of the play and then randomly allow that thing rather than making it all backyard football.
Joe, what do you got?
Well, I think it's not. I lost my train of thought for a second, but here we go. So I find it very coincidental that over the last 2-3 games, our offensive line overall has been playing much better than it had the rest of the season, and these were the top 2 running games that we've had all season, right? I don't think that's coincidental. I think that, kind of what Paul was saying a little bit, I don't think that the issue with Josh Allen's with his wide receivers. I think the issue of trust comes at that offensive line. Josh Allen, the first half of the season, if not more, was running for his life, like all the time. And so he felt like he had to do it all. We had Tommy on one of my halftimes, and he said, the Buffalo Bills should go on Indeed.com to find offensive linemen. Like, that's how bad it was getting. And so, and it almost after that game, it's like they did, because the past 2 games, I feel like our offensive line has really stepped up. I think the more Josh Allen trusts a reliable offensive line, then you'll see, again, those plays develop. I do agree with Mike. There are so many. You can't have plays where every single wide receiver has an option route. You can't do that. You have to have set plays. And I do think that the play callers are given a little too much flexibility. But at the same time, I think it comes down to the offensive line. Does Josh Allen thinks he can hold the ball for 3.5 seconds and have time to find the open man downfield? Because if he does, then if he feels like he has the time, we have the weapons to do so. But if he doesn't feel like he has the time, he's going to panic and then start. So I think the beginning of this game is going to be very, very telling as far as, do the Patriots get pressure on Josh Allen? If they don't, then I expect Josh Allen to get more comfortable, calm down, and then find those open receivers.
So I have to ask Mario. Joe mentioned that the last couple games, offensive line has seemed to be an improved piece of the offense. Well, who's been in there the last 2 games? Who has it
Shower me
been?
with his name, Rick Bates, baby.
Not Rick Bates. Where did this joke even come from?
I don't even know. It's just one of those things.
He said it. That's what everyone calls him in the locker room is Rick.
Hen Dog corrected me because I hashtagged Ryan Bates for president, and Hen Dog puts in the chat, asterisk Rick Bates for president. And I was like, did I spell president wrong? And then I realized we changed Ryan to Rick. Yeah, there it is.
I mean, it's interesting because you take a step back. Like, let's say if we're national media for a second, we're taking a look at this game from the outside. You have the top 2 it's like we're cheating the rest of the NFL. You have the top 2 defense in the NFL going against each other in the wild card round.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it seems like it's, so do you trust Allen to go against the second best defense in the NFL more than Mac Jones to go against the best defense in the NFL? But keep in mind the little asterisk of Allen's been going against the best defense in the NFL every day for 18 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I know ones don't go against ones all the time. That's fine. And I want to get to this point. Maybe not in the 2-degree weather with 14-mile-an-hour winds against Mac Jones and the litany of wide receivers that they have. But I want to start with Mike, go to Joe, and then clean it up with Paul. For 4 weeks now, or probably 4 or 5, Tre'Davious White. We haven't, other than the Bucs game where Dane Jackson and Levi Wallace played. I mean, they stepped up. They were playing a lot of man on Gronk, on Evans, a Hall of Fame tight end, and a first-round pick. These guys were going toe-to-toe with these guys and punching them in the mouth and trying to do as much as they could. What do you see going into the playoffs if the Buffalo Bills have to face Kansas City again or anything else? What do you because for me, I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop. I'm like, the Trey White injury has to hurt the Bills at some point. What's your take on? What's your thought or your take on Tre'Davious White?
Against the Chiefs, no, because all you do is get physical with the Chiefs, and then they're a finesse team. They don't like the physicality of it. So if you get physical like we did with Kelsey and with Hill, it throws them off their games. So I think Dane Jackson's going to be fine there. Where we will struggle is if we run into someone like Dallas in like the Super Bowl. I don't know if there's anybody,
maybe what you did there, Mike.
Maybe the Titans because of Julio and AJ Brown. You can't out physical those guys. I could see that hurting us, but with the Chiefs, they're not a physical team. So I don't see that really bothering us. And we haven't seen it hurt us because we haven't gone up against a lot of really great receivers. And Dane Jackson plays the run tough. He gets physical. If they line a tight end out there like they did with Pitts, he played him fine.
Yeah. Do you think Cincy will be a problem? You think Cincy might be a problem with T. Higgins, Boyd, and Chase?
I don't know. Have we seen anybody get physical with Chase yet? Because
they play in that division that has very tough defenses that like to hit people in the mouth a lot. I think they played against the Ravens. Most of the Ravens were out, so that's a bad example.
Squad corners.
They had guys working at UPS the week before they played against them. So Joe, I'm curious, man. I'm curious. What do you think about that? About the Tre'Davious? Are you? Because not many people have been talking about it because the Buffalo Bills defense didn't seem like they missed a beat when he went out.
Well, so you and Paul brought this up shortly after he got hurt. Like the final 4 weeks of the season, 5 weeks of the season, we weren't playing world beaters at A, quarterback, or B, at the wide receiver position. So it's really no surprise to me that going into the playoffs, we're not talking about it. But it is a big deal. Trey White is still an all-pro corner, and you need those type of players in the playoffs. No offense, Paul. Dane Jackson's not going to get it done.
Ooh, I warned Mike about Matt Breida slander before
I
before
won't
the
handle
stream.
any Dane Jackson slander at all. I tolerate none of it.
He's going to be in the car this summer.
But Dane Jackson is no Trey White, and I would.
Yep. The internet gods didn't like his take.
No, they
So they
didn't.
just cut him off.
That's it.
Yeah, I see that. But y'all thinking about Teron Johnson? No, I love what Teron Johnson's done. I think he's done a great job. I think, a couple plays here or there he wishes he had back, but I think that obviously you have to give Leslie Frazier a lot of credit, and we're seeing that with how many teams are asking him to be the next coach of their team.
So I know the point has been, well, since Trey White has been out, who has Buffalo played, right? So I get the point, and truthfully speaking, right, they give 131 yards in the air to the Patriots, 293 yards to the Bucks, 193 yards to Carolina, 314 to the Patriots. Funny. Paul's reading the offensive stats.
You're reading the offensive stats.
That's
Paul.
us. Excuse me. That is us. Opposite side of that coin. I should have stopped when I realized that one of the Patriots game wasn't 19 yards in the air. The fact is that there's only been one quarterback who's thrown for even 200 yards against Buffalo since you've lost Trey White.
And
right?
that was
That was
Brady with
Brady
his
at
litany of
351.
receivers. Yeah.
350. Right. Exactly. Right. And but you spread any defense, then what's going to happen, especially when they're already having depth issues. But the point still remains. You've gone against Mac Jones, Tom Brady, Cam Newton, Matt Ryan, and Mike White, who literally just is running for his life.
Mike White?
Yeah.
Zach Wilson.
Zach Wilson, you mean?
Whatever. It doesn't matter.
I love all the Jets quarterbacks are interchangeable at this point. He's like, you went against Ken O'Brien.
Mike White. He was worse
matter.
than Mike White.
Ken O'Brien.
Yeah, this went off the rails quick, didn't it, guys? This one went off the rails pretty quick.
No, but I understand Paul's point. It's like,
yeah,
you're not. Aside from Pitts, who are you afraid of? Gage, Paul. You told me no one's sweating. Russell, his name Russell Gage. I don't even know his name.
Yeah,
who cares?
Mike White, Zach Wilson. Who cares?
I mean, you had Dollar Tree wide receivers playing for the Jets. I mean, you didn't know like what was going on, so it was really tough for you to try to figure out, have a good barometer basically of how Dane Jackson and Levi Wallace would perform against high level competition. I think the Chiefs have that, even though they're not as physical as Mike said. The Bengals are basically the NutraSweet version of the LA Rams, because Zach Taylor was the quarterbacks coach over there with McVay, and that's what basically he tried to bring to the Bengals, and now he has some pieces there that can do that. Tell me, look at the Bengals and look at the Rams, and tell me they're not the same freaking team offensively. Mario
has had this love attraction to the Bengals because he for weeks has been trying to trade for Jamar Chase in every fantasy football league I have that I'm in with him. I do want to point out Triggs came in with the super chat referring to Bill Belichick, says Bill's ass is going to be puckered when he sees J.A. on Saturday.
That's a super chat. That's a super chat.
That's what I'm talking about right there. That's it. And
just a reminder, guys, along with all of those links that are down in the description, our Patreon's there too. So if you guys want to, want to help out, support, and do all that stuff, Patreon is the better way to go than the super chat. So just letting you guys know, you get the monthly access to new videos and a bunch of other different things that we have going on.
And we still have one more jersey to give away only to our Patreon members.
We do, only the Patreon members. And we got yelled at by the Patreon members because at one point we were at like 6 and they were like, we're going to draw your name out of a hat to give you a jersey. And then stop telling people to join your Patreon because you got a better chance to win the jersey. Go ahead, Paul.
Mar, I was just going to bring it up. So I know I've seen the name come up a bunch in the chat, Shaq Lawson. Can we just level set on Shaq Lawson real quick? Because I know there was a lot of noise around it. And, there was like, well, the Bills are signing Shaq Lawson. And, oh, that report was false. Or no, he has to clear COVID protocol. He was on waivers. He doesn't have to clear COVID protocol to join a new team because he was currently on an active roster. So the clearing COVID protocol is not the same. It's like when he hadn't been a free agent long enough to be required to go through a isolation or COVID protocol before joining the team. So that is not the case. Shaq Lawson is not a member of the Buffalo Bills right now. Could he be? The Bills have signed veterans and put them on their practice squad last season, but we haven't seen that this year for whatever reason. I don't know what that is, but he's not a member of the Bills, and I haven't heard at this point that he will be, but that doesn't mean anything. But for those of you who are saying that he has to clear COVID protocol to join the team, that's not accurate.
Okay. Yeah, it doesn't seem like that's a thing where you would benefit greatly by having him one of your veteran protected guys on your practice squad. Mm-hmm. To me, I remember the Buffalo Bills
this year.
No. Oh yeah. I mean, truth be told, the Buffalo Bills did this last year with Devontae Freeman and Kenny Stills, and they never saw a second of playing time. It was just an insurance policy for a playoff run. I mean, that's what Bean loves to do. He loves having those insurance policies there. But I'm curious right now. I want to do something. I want to play a little game with y'all because we got 4 people here. We can never do this with me and Paul because he gets all scared because when the 6'5", 250-pound guy says role playing, he gets all scared.
You've never been in a car with him when he says it, guys.
Only fans.
Yeah, he has his only fan.
Little ring in the background. So
I am his only fan. Okay, but real quick before we get to that, Dan comes in. He says the defensive stats are historic. A defense that could carry an okay quarterback through the Super Bowl. We have Josh. I think this is our year. I am with you 110%. I hope that is the Buffalo Bills year as well. Bring Mormon back to punt in the playoffs. Hey, if Edge can come back out of retirement to the WWE, I think Brian Mormon can punt a few times. That being said, so here's what I want. I need Mike to be Sean McDermott. I need Joe to be Leslie Frazier.
Oh no.
Okay. I am going to be Josh McDaniels, and Paul's going to be Mac Jones. Okay. All right. So
it's gonna be Mac Jones when he's got.
Can
a
I
four-man
screen
pressure.
record that, please? Okay,
Mac
so
Jones at 4-man pressures.
Sean and Leslie. Okay, I want you guys to give me because it's come up in the chat a few times. This is why I want to talk about it. The run game for the Patriots, obviously, 14-10 loss in ridiculous conditions. I'm not talking about a dome. I'm not talking about crazy weather. I'm talking about what is going to be your game plan to shut out the Patriots. You could talk about personnel. You could talk about activating a guy that hasn't been active. You could talk about deactivating a guy that you don't think will play very much. Haven't seen much of Klein lately. Mm-hmm. Just saying, you guys, give me your best take on how you plan to stop the Patriots offense. I'll start with Joe first.
Okay. All right. So when you look at the statistics for Damian Harris in the 2 Buffalo Bills games, everyone talks about the total yards. The second game, you talk about the 3 touchdowns. What is not getting talked about is the yards per carry. In the first game, he averaged over 11 yards per carry. Second game, only 5.7. Now, 5.7 is still really good, but it's half of what it was in the first game. So obviously, we made an adjustment from the first game to the second game that worked to some extent. So what did we do that worked, and how can we do that even more in this game? And, what do we lean on? I think that's a really telling number, the 5.7 yards per carry compared to 11.1. Now, some of those carries were goal line carries, so you do have to take that into account. But I do feel like this Buffalo Bills defense did better in the second game compared to the first game. Better tackling has to be a big part of that. I personally feel like towards looking at the last 4 or 5 games of the season, the Bills did a better job overall at tackling. But missed tackles have been a concern throughout the season. And it's not just, and it drives me nuts talking about it, like when you see what could be a loss of 2 turn into no gain just simply because you missed a tackle and you fell forward, that drives me insane. Like those 2 yards matter so much. So tackling and relying on what we did in the second game compared to the first game that got that yards per carry down significantly.
Okay, Sean, seems like Leslie has the defensive game plan all set. Going into the management, talk a little bit about defense and the management of the game. First of all, Sean, stop calling freaking timeouts on defense. Second of all, the overall scope of the game. Are you going to try to hold the ball for more than 35 minutes again against the Patriots? And if so, can you do that just by purely throwing the ball 40 times in this game?
No, you have to be two-pronged approach. 60-40 all day long. No,
you didn't give me the clap. I was worried.
Really, honestly, I need to see the profits. We need to take the game plan we took last time we played them and beat it into Josh's head. Don't look for the deep ball. Take the underneath stuff, take the quick stuff, put together the 10, 12, 14 play drives, put it in the end zone. If it's there, fine, but you don't have to chase it. If it naturally opens up, great. But get the ball out of your hands quickly, get it to your playmakers and let them do the work. Now, on the defensive side of the ball, something I want to add to what Joe said. Eli Nku, we need to call him up. He's a stout little guy who plays the run fantastically because you can't have Jerry Hughes and Epinesa trying to set the edge. They're smaller against those big uglies up front. So we slot kick Oliver out more to the end on those early run plays, stick Harry and Nku in the middle, and rotate Star in.
Ooh, Harry, Star in the middle.
Coach, I just, I play with the players you give me. So, yeah, whatever you say, Coach, I'm good.
All right. So, Paul, do you want to go first? You want me to go first?
Hi, my name's Mac Jones. I look like a Lego character. I don't know why.
How dare you spit on the good name of Will Arnett?
For my career, I on average throw for 79 yards against the Buffalo Bills. I am irrelevant today, and I will be
Paul?
irrelevant on Saturday.
Or Mac,
Thank you.
you have too much bass in your voice.
I mean, I was thinking about it too. It's like,
what are you going to say about Mac Jones, right? Like it's in typical Bill Belichick fashion. It is, hey kid, just don't lose the game for us, right? Like you're not asking her to do anything. You're just like, hey kid, don't lose the game for us. Like, isn't that the way it's seen?
Stop skipping the ball. Hey kids, stop skipping the ball.
Paul,
isn't that the way it's seen? He averages 79 yards in his career against Buffalo per game.
Obviously, it was 19 yards in the one game, Paul.
Well,
A little bit skewed, sir. Point being is this: this is why I hate that we share a brain, because it really bugged me. And the fact is that I was literally going to be as Josh McDaniels and say, "Listen, you do not have to win this game for us to be successful and take home a dub. You don't have to do that. You need to do your checkdowns, hand the damn ball off, hit the open. I don't care if it's the tight end. I don't care if it's Smith or Henry on every down. If they're the first guy open, hit them. Listen, we need to control the ball and keep 17 and 14 off the damn field. That's basically what they need to do. Now, one thing that has been critical by a lot of Patriots fans is that Josh McDaniels has been too conservative with some of his play calling and not getting a lot of his play callers the ball. I don't think that's McDaniels. I think that is Belichick, 110%, because he's like, listen, if you don't give them the ball in our territory, I could plan and design a defense that could win us games. 10-7 later, second best defense in the NFL, they're in the playoffs. So I don't think you can really mess with that recipe. I think he's had the handcuffs on McDaniels the entire year. So that being said, I told Ray on his show a little bit earlier tonight, I said, in order for the New England Patriots to win, Mac Jones, and I'm going to counter what I just said right now. Mac Jones has to do something he's never done against the Buffalo Bills. He's been a game manager handcuffed in both games. He was not the reason for either game. If you want to break it down to brass tacks, Mac Jones has to play out of his freaking mind. And that's not saying he has to throw for 300 yards, because when he throws for a lot of yards, they usually lose. I'm saying he's got to do stuff during this game that is outside of his character. Naked bootleg, something like that. Maybe a trick play. Maybe they run the Wildcat. Paul, we talked 2 years ago when the Bills played the Patriots. They ran the Wildcat for crying out loud.
They
Why?
ran the Wildcat last week. They put it on film.
Defenses have to put it on. Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
So I think, speaking from a Patriots perspective, Mac Jones has to do something. The Bills have to be prepared for Mac Jones to do something that he's never done in 17 games, which is crazy, right? How do you prepare for something that's never happened before? So,
right. Well, we do have a super chat that Carl says, stop the run and force Macaroni Jones to pass it, which again
Jones.
that's it. You got a rookie quarterback. Treat him like a rookie quarterback.
Yep.
You know, like you go hunt. You treat him like a rookie quarterback. Triggs had one more for us that says, no, all McDaniels needs to do is film your practice.
Did you see that clip today? Did you see the clip today that's going around? I Am Athlete. I Am Athlete. One of the Shady McCoy was there, and a couple other guys from the Broncos were there, and they said when they started out 6-0, McDaniel was in the room telling him, when the ball snapped, you run, to this hash. His cameraman got busted. They went like 1-6 down the stretch. He got fired.
What?
Really?
Yeah. That's insanity.
Oh, you haven't seen it yet? It's out on Twitter all over the place. It's called I Am Athlete. Yeah.
Some Spider 2Y banana. That's what I'm talking about. Okay, so it's a 4-point spread. #Nation. I wanted to say thank you guys. We got our last little thing we're gonna do. We're gonna do predictions. We're gonna start with Joe, go to Mike, then Paul, and I will hit clean up here. Just as always, make sure that we wanted to thank our sponsors for tonight's show, Mr. Rogers Homes and LinkedIn, as well as all of our links are going to be in the description of this video, our Spotify, iTunes, all that stuff, as well as the brochure for Mr. Rogers Homes. Sean Rogers, the top 1% realtor in all of Arizona. And our Patreon and merch is also down in the description of the video, so make sure that you go and check that out. 4-point game. I want to hear some predictions out of the chat, but I'm going to start with Joe. Joe, what's your prediction for a score for Saturday at around midnight? Because that's when the game's going to be over.
Yeah. So you said it. I'm going off, I do Rated Sharp picks, so let's do the spread. Currently a 4-point spread right now in Buffalo's favor. The over-under is 43.5. So
I
agree with Paul and Mario. You got to take the under here. Smart money says under. Now that could mean that Vegas does something. I mean, they don't do that, of course, but they could. But I would take the under here. When you're talking about the spread, I do not see the Buffalo Bills covering the spread of 4 points. I don't. I see this as a very close, well-contested. Bill Belichick is not going to get blown out in the playoffs. Bill Belichick is not going to lose by more than a touchdown in the playoffs. So that means you can either take the 4 points that you're given or hope for the 3 that you would take, in my opinion. So take the 4 points. I say this is a close game. Give me the Buffalo Bills to win this one just because I'm a Bills fan. I'll go that way, but I definitely have my reservations about that. 17-16 Bills.
Ooh. I am disappointed in you, Joe.
Most people are.
Disappointed.
Most of my life. Yeah, story of my life.
I will tell you,
like everyone I've ever played for.
I won't be giving my prediction tonight. My prediction will actually be on Friday on Tailgate Talk.
All right.
I do see it much larger than a 3-point spread, though. If you go back and you look at the last 4 meetings, we've won 3 of 4. Mm-hmm. And 2 of those, Allen's blowing them out. I'll leave it at that, and then I'll see you Friday night on Tailgate Talk for the predictions and our X Factors.
Mike, hey, how many of those games are in the playoffs, Mike? How many of those are in the playoffs, Mike? Bill does not give a shit about the regular season.
You still have Noodle Arm McCorkle Jones quarterbacking for them.
They do. I understand. I was just messing with you. But #Nation, make sure Friday you go and head over to Tailgate Talk and see Mike and Tommy give their predictions. But Joe, Paul, what do you got?
Mick Chicken actually is picking. Now? He's picking the Bills at 20-17, and that's actually I think it's. I'm totally with Joe. if and when the Bills win this game, it won't be by more than a touchdown. This is going to be a very, very close game. It's going to be but it's going to be a very boring game to watch, man. Both these teams are going to try and clock control. Yeah, it's going to be. There might be 6 possessions aside.
Tune in to Hashtag Sports on Saturday night. It will not be boring, I promise.
Listen,
it's never boring, Joe.
I don't know what the stat is, but I went on, like I said, I went on Ray's show a little bit earlier tonight, and I gave my prediction, my score prediction. I'm going to stay consistent with that. I need somebody from Hashtag Nation to do me a favor and comment on this video, because I don't know if you guys know this. How many games has Bill Belichick won, or how many lost? Because he lost when he's leading at halftime in a playoff game.
Ooh.
That's an interesting stat to find. I want to say that because I think that's going to happen. I think that the Buffalo Bills will defeat the New England Patriots 17-14, but they're going to be losing at halftime. Bills are going to be losing at halftime. Like it'll be 7-6.
There's zero faith on this panel. Zero faith.
Winning is winning in the playoffs. It doesn't matter if you win by an inch or a mile. Winning.
Okay, I'm gonna. You're right, Dom. You're right.
You never had your car.
Let me ask you a question. How many close games has the Bills won this year?
They're 0-5.
1-score games.
0-5.
Yeah, 0-5.
So you think it's going to change come playoff time?
12. Their average margin of victory is 12, that's absurd.
So all 3 of you are telling me they're going to flip the switch and win the close game.
No, I'm saying this, Mike. I'm saying 2 things. One, the playoffs are a different animal for everyone. And if the 2021 season taught us anything, is that everything's going to get flipped on its head. This is like, Doctor Strange is like got us in a time warp. He's like turning everything around upside down on us. It's insane.
And you know what, Mike? Here's why that I'm apprehensive, and this is, you guys can bury me for this if you want, but I don't have a positive memory of the Colts game in the playoffs. The opportunities the Colts gave you, the Patriots are not going to give you, right?
Yep.
Like that's just the facts. That Patriot team is not going to give you opportunities for extra possessions, whereas the Colts, they did, right? Like you're not going to have the opportunity to get extra possessions in this game. Right? That's why it's going to be a close game.
Would rout this Patriots team.
Yeah, sure would.
That Colts team was way better than this Patriots team is. I think people are giving the Patriots offense too much credit. They run the ball. We stop the run. They don't throw the ball well. And they've proven it. They've lost 3 of the last 4 games coming into this. They backed into the playoffs.
Yeah, but we knew that going into the first game, and they still ran all over us. We knew that going into the second game, and it was still a close game. You talk about
they ran all over. See, I don't sign up for that. They ran all over us. They had a big run like the Tennessee did. Outside of that, they punted a ton. They ran, punted. The reason why they won is because we couldn't score, because all we could do was throw the ball, and the wind wouldn't let Josh throw.
Were the Tampa Bay Buccaneers more than a 6-point better team than the Washington football team last year? Because that's how much they beat them by in the first round of the playoffs last year. This is the playoffs.
They didn't take him serious. They started some guy named Hinkie that was bagging groceries the week before.
But
you forget they were playing on that ice rink called FedEx Field too. So that
can we have a moment of silence for all the careers
I'm
lost
just
at
saying,
FedEx Field?
My counter argument to you, Mike, would be: do you think that we're going to blow out teams in the playoffs? Like we're just going to breeze through this? Because we haven't breezed through anything all season.
No, I just don't think. Well, it depends on who we're going to line up against. Having the Chargers out, having the Colts out, those were 2 of the teams that I thought that could really give us a run for our money.
I wanted to play the Chargers so badly compared to this game. So bad.
Come join me on Friday night. We'll go through all of this.
All right.
You could tell.
What just happened?
Paul disappeared.
No,
Paul Amar just disappeared. You can't have us host this thing, guys. We'll start yelling at each other.
Listen, guys? Mommy and Daddy were fighting. I just decided to take Paul
to go to bed.
Paul and I were going to leave the room so you guys could finish your time.
You could tell Joe's been calling every game on hashtag sports when he's like, wait, so Mike, tell me about this, because I've had to talk for 4 hours every Sunday.
I know.
18
I
weeks.
join him. I join Joe on most Sundays in the chat, and me and Joe have these conversations via chat.
We do.
Amazing.
All right, Mark, do you think it's time to wrap it up, my friend?
It is time. It is time. Ladies and gentlemen of Hashtag Nation and Bills Mafia, thank you for joining us for our playoff primer. We had 4 out of the 5 of Hashtag Sports here to break it down for you. Obviously, life gets in the way for some things. Make sure you check out Mike all the way to my left. Make sure you check out Mike. I'm going the wrong way. Make sure you check out Mike on the Friday night tailgate. Make sure you check out Joe calling play-by-play of the game.
And I will be giving my razor sharp picks tomorrow.
Yeah, Razor Sharp Picks will be on Thursday, as well as Paul and me and whoever wants to join us from Hashtag Sports for the post game after the Buffalo Bills are victorious against the New England Patriots. It'll probably be around midnight when those things finish. But I mean, we'll have a nice little celebration, when the Buffalo Bills win. So for Mike, Joe, Paul, I am Mario. This is Hashtag Sports. We out this bitch.
Go Bills.